Disney World's virtual queue has changed, including the addition of a huge new ride. But one thing that stayed the same is that it's virtually the most stressful part of a Disney World vacation. You need to get on the latest and greatest rides, but it's complicated, and it can sell out within seconds, possibly ruining your day and costing you money. Time to turn the stress level down. Consider me the Bob Ross of the Disney World app. Right here, we'll take our brush and make a happy little boarding group for Guardians of the Galaxy. No need to stress. Anyone can put a masterpiece on the canvas, and with this video, anyone can master the virtual queue. Hi, I'm James from Guide to WDW. Last year, I released a virtual queue video which helped tons of people get a boarding group as fast as possible. But Disney has changed the virtual queue a lot since then. There are new rules, new rides, and the app has been updated. So I'm updating my virtual queue guide, not only with this new information, but also answering the biggest questions that viewers like you have been asking me. By the end of this video, you'll not only know the ins and outs of Disney World's virtual queue, but I'm also going to share my proven method for the fastest way to join, as well as another clever way many viewers have recommended. This video is broken into 3 sections. First, I'll cover vital information about the virtual queue. Then I'll dig a little deeper on what's new with the virtual queue this year, and finally I'll share tips for how to join the queue as fast as possible. Part 1. Vital information about the virtual queue. What is a virtual queue? First of all, what is a queue? A queue is just a way to say the line if you're fancy, if you're British, or if you're both. Everyone's familiar with a traditional standby queue. You just go into the line and wait your turn to go on the ride. Simple. A virtual queue is a bit more complicated, to say the least. With the virtual queue at Disney World, once you join, you're given a boarding group number. You can only go on the ride once the number for your boarding group is called. It's basically like a pick a number system at a deli, but instead of a ham sandwich, you get to go on a ride at the end. Does the virtual queue cost money? Thankfully, no. And let's not give Disney any ideas. Joining the virtual queue is free. This is a completely separate system than Genie Plus or Lightning Lane, which do cost money. What rides use the virtual queue? In recent years, Disney World has rolled out a virtual queue for new attractions, and while the virtual queue is running, these rides do not offer a regular standby line. But which rides currently have a virtual queue depends on when you go. Both of Disney World's newest roller coasters, Tron at Magic Kingdom and Guardians of the Galaxy at EPCOT, have used a virtual queue since they opened. Tiana's Bayou Adventure at Magic Kingdom, the highly anticipated redo of Splash Mountain, will have a virtual queue during annual pass holder previews and once it opens for all guests on June 28th. Tiana's virtual queue is also a bit unique, so I have a chapter just on this new ride later in the video. Last year, Rise of the Resistance had a virtual queue, but only during Jollywood Nights, the holiday party at Hollywood Studios. During regular park hours, Rise of the Resistance has a standby line. How do you join the virtual queue at Disney World? In order to join the virtual queue, you have to use the My Disney Experience app. In the app, there's a virtual queue section. This has changed from last year as the menu page looks different. Just scroll down and you'll see virtual queue in the My Visit list. Your goal is to tap the Join Virtual Queue button as fast as possible as soon as the queue opens. You can practice right now by hitting the subscribe button as fast as possible for more Disney World tips and advice. So when can you join the virtual queue? The virtual queue opens 2 times for regular park hours, at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. for all guests every day, and they stay open until the allotment of boarding groups has run out, and this can happen really quick. There's also another opening time for extended evening hours and holiday parties. On days when the park has extended evening hours, guests staying at eligible resorts can join the queue at 6 p.m. This usually happens Mondays at EPCOT and Wednesdays at Magic Kingdom, but check the schedule because this can change seasonally. For the holiday parties, last year Tron had a virtual queue at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party and Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. That party virtual queue also opened at 6 p.m. And the virtual queue at Rise of the Resistance during Jollywood Nights opened at 8 p.m. for party guests. Is it easier to join at 7 a.m. or 1 p.m.? This one has a really clear answer. The 7 a.m. queue typically sells out in seconds, while the 1 p.m. queue can last for minutes or even hours. But if the ride is one of your biggest priorities, there is still a good reason to try for the 7 a.m. queue, because when you join earlier in the day, you'll get a lower boarding group number, which will be called earlier. Essentially, you're ahead in the virtual line. If the ride has any technical difficulties and is down for a big part of the day, people with higher boarding group numbers who are in the back of the virtual line may not get called. But if you have a lower number, you still may be able to get on the ride that day if it comes back online. Where do you need to be to join the virtual queue? The rules of where you need to physically be to join the virtual queue change depending on the release time. For the 7 a.m. drop, you can join from anywhere. For the 1 p.m. drop, you need to be inside the theme park to join. With all-day park hopping being back at Disney World, it's now a lot easier to make that happen, even if you have a ticket that needs reservations. For the 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. opening, you can join from anywhere, but you just need to be staying at an eligible resort for extended evening hours, or have a party ticket and make sure everything is linked in your account in the app so the system knows that you can join. How many virtual queues can you join? You can join each ride's queue once per regular operating day. So that's for the 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. openings. And you can only be joined to one queue at a time. So if you join the Tron queue in the morning, you can't join the Guardians queue until your boarding group is called and you scan into the line. You'll almost certainly need to wait until the 1 p.m. opening to join the second ride. Now here's the thing that's easy to miss because the rules are kind of confusing. It is possible to join a virtual queue for a ride more than once in a day, but only if you're eligible for one of those evening boarding groups. For extended evening hours and holiday parties, think of the evening as its own mini day. So even if you join the queue for the ride during the 7 a.m. or 1 p.m. openings, you'll still be eligible to join the 6 p.m. queue and get on the same ride twice in one day. Can you still go on the ride if you miss out on the queue? Yes, but it will cost you. When a ride has a virtual queue, it does not have a standby line. So if you can't join the virtual queue, your only option is Lightning Lane. The exception to this are the holiday parties, since Lightning Lane isn't available during those events. The same thing's true for extended evening hours. Tron and Guardians of the Galaxy both offer individual Lightning Lane, which is a per-ride purchase, while Tiana's Bayou Adventure is available through Genie Plus. However, you're not going to have to worry about not getting the queue, because I'm going to share two methods that will give you the best chance of joining and getting an early boarding group. But before I get into that, let's dig into some of the other ways that Disney World has changed the virtual queue this year. How the new Park Pass reservation rules affect the virtual queue. First of all, earlier this year, Disney World massively changed their park reservation system. It used to be that all tickets needed a park-specific reservation to get in, and your ability to join the 7 a.m. virtual queue used to be tied to your park reservation. For example, if you wanted to join the 7 a.m. Tron queue, you needed to have a Magic Kingdom park reservation to even be able to join. However, date-based tickets don't require park reservations anymore. So Disney World updated the 7 a.m. rule to state guests will be able to join one attraction virtual queue at any theme park where they have valid admission. What does this mean? If you have a ticket that needs a reservation, the old rules still apply. You need the right park reservation for that 7 a.m. opening. If you have a ticket that doesn't need a reservation, you're eligible to join whichever virtual queue you want to in the morning. Strike out on Tron, try again for Guardians. Because you don't need a reservation, it's now possible to do that, if you're quick enough. Important differences about Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Disney announced that Tiana's Bayou Adventure will open with a virtual queue, and at first glance it looks the same as Guardians or Tron. It opens at 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. and all the regular virtual queue rules apply. But there are three things about Tiana's that are different than the other virtual queues. 1. The ride opens on June 28th, but it will start offering a virtual queue during the annual pass holder previews on select dates in June. And here's the interesting twist. If you join the Tiana virtual queue during that annual pass preview, it won't affect your ability to join the Tron or Guardians queue. So pass holders could join the Tron queue and the Tiana queue at the same time, but just during those preview dates. After the ride opens on June 28th, the one boarding group at a time rule will be in effect. 2. This is also the only virtual queue ride that will be offered with Genie Plus as an option. Which is great, but that Lightning Lane will probably be in very high demand. So check out my channel for my free Genie Plus Masterclass for all my tips on how to get more Lightning Lanes with your Genie purchase. 3. Disney World has already announced that this virtual queue is going away soon after the ride opens. Which makes sense, since this has the same ride system as Splash Mountain, and Disney has decades of experience running this ride with a standby line. So if you're watching this video, there's a chance that the Tiana virtual queue is already gone, and you probably skipped ahead in the chapters, so I may be talking to literally no one right now. Okay, with all this information, you're now ready to learn the fastest way to join the virtual queue. Having as fast of an internet connection as possible is key. So should you use cellular or Wi-Fi? There's some advice out there that just says don't use Wi-Fi, but that's holdover advice from when you always had to be in the park to join the queue, and the in-park Wi-Fi can be spotty. Since you can join the 7 a.m. virtual queue from anywhere, if you should use Wi-Fi or cellular just depends on what gives you the fastest internet speeds. So go to speedtest.net or just use Google's built-in speed test and see which one is faster. Once you pick the best connection, you can use one of the following two methods that make joining easy. First, I'll share my preferred method, and then I'll share another popular way that lots of people use. The first is called Guide to WDW's Rapid Refresh method. I'm going to walk you through step-by-step how to do this. To me, this is the easiest way of reliably joining the virtual queue. So you want to start this process around 5 minutes before the queue opens. Set an alarm to remind yourself so you don't miss the opening time. Step 1. Open the My Disney Experience app and make sure you're logged in. As an extra tip, make sure you have all the tickets and accounts of your traveling party linked before you head to Orlando, so you don't need to take extra time to take care of all that. Step 2. You'll want to go to the virtual queue section in the app. You can go to this page from a few different screens. It can be found on the home page, the tip board, but I like to join it from the menu because I find it the quickest and easiest way to get to the virtual queue page since it's always in the same spot. Tap the 3-line menu icon at the bottom right of the app and then tap Virtual Queue in the My Visit list. Step 3. Tap Join Virtual Queue. Step 4. Select which virtual queue you want to join. Step 5. Tap Confirm Your Party. You'll definitely want to do this before the queue opens. Everyone in your party who has an eligible ticket will automatically be selected. Step 6. Once you've confirmed your party, stay on this page. You'll want to refresh this page as close to the queue opening as possible to bring up the Join Virtual Queue button at the bottom. There are 2 ways to refresh the page: pull to refresh or tap to refresh. So this is where Guide to WDW's Rapid Refresh method comes into play. Starting 15 to 30 seconds before the queue opens, just start rapidly tapping the refresh button at the bottom of the screen. Don't even look to see if the text on the button has changed, just keep tapping. If it feels like a Mario Party minigame, you're doing it right. Not only is this the quickest way to refresh the screen, but as soon as the clock changes from 6:59 to 7 or 12:59 to 1, the refresh button will change into the Join Virtual Queue button. So by rapidly tapping the refresh button, your finger is in the exact right spot to hit that button as soon as humanly possible. Since you've already confirmed your party, you'll join the queue as soon as you tap it. It's possible with all that rapid tapping you might accidentally dismiss the success screen. Don't worry about that. You can find your boarding group number by going back to the virtual queue section in the menu. Method 2, World Clock method. I got several comments on last year's virtual queue video suggesting using a world clock, so you can know down to the second exactly when to refresh. To do this, you'll need 2 devices, one with the Disney World app and one with a world clock like time.gov. Follow all the same steps I just went through to go to the virtual queue page and confirm your party to get to the page you need to tap to refresh. Look at your world clock paying attention to Eastern Time and start tapping refresh around 1 to 3 seconds before 7 a.m. or 1 p.m. And just keep repeatedly tapping the refresh button as fast as possible until you've joined the queue. The advantage to the world clock method is that it's more accurate, and you can start your refresh closer to exactly when the hour changes. The downside is you need a second device. That's why I prefer the rapid refresh method. It's a bit simpler. But no matter which method you choose, don't pull to refresh. The animation takes much longer, and your finger won't be in the right position to join the queue. Some people told me they think pulling to refresh is quicker, but that hasn't been the case in my experience. Plus, tapping to refresh keeps your finger right in the position it needs to be to also tap the Join Virtual Queue button. Once again, I like to keep things as simple as possible. Oh, look at that! You got a boarding group. Great! Now what? Once your boarding group number is called, you'll get a notification. You'll then have an hour to get back to the ride. There is a 15-minute grace period if you're running late. In case you missed the notification, you can see which boarding groups are currently being called from the tip board in the app. And that's all there is to it. Once you do all that, you'll be on your happy little light cycle zooming so fast through the grid. Let's add a little cartoon bubble. He's saying, wee. If this video helps you get a boarding group, let me know. I love hearing your success stories. And if you don't get a boarding group, blame Bob Ross. No matter what, I hope this helps you have more fun and less stress on your Disney World vacation. But what about the rest of your trip? I mean, there's dining reservations, Genie Plus, Lightning Lane, and so many attractions and shows I feel my eye twitching right now. Well, I have you covered, because you'll want to watch this next video here for more Disney World tips and tricks. This has been James from Guide to WDW. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you real soon.